Getting ready to begin, so please take your seats and gather the materials. Hello to those who are joining us virtually. Good evening and welcome to the 2022 membership meeting of the ACLU of Hawaiʻi. The first component of our agenda will be the business meeting. But I want to do the housekeeping matters first. So emergency exits are directly ahead, to the rear of the room, to the left, and to the right. If you're looking for a restroom, it's to the end of the room, and then to the left, the double doors, and then to the left again. So I'd like to introduce, my name is Scott Greenwood, and I'm the Executive Director of the ACLU of Hawaiʻi. I'm serving on an interim basis with the request of the board. And I'm here on behalf of the staff and the board to welcome everybody to our meeting. With us here this evening, we have most of our staff, and we have key leadership from our board as well. I'd like to introduce the acting president of the ACLU of Hawaiʻi and ACLU of Hawaiʻi Vice President Barbara Franklin to introduce board members and to serve as a general welcome and to conduct the business portion of the Barbara.
Thank you. This is Michael. My name is Barbara Franklin. I'm the acting president of Lila Lopez. That's on vacation. She's returning tomorrow. And so I'm meeting tonight. This is our annual meeting. We have our annual meeting in December 2021. This annual meeting is open to members. And the first item on our agenda is whether or not we're going to roll music. And I checked the registration. We do not have one. What we need tonight is we will not be conducting the business meeting. I do want to also introduce some of the other board members that are here. Jeff Hong is a board member, and he's also acting as a parliamentarian tonight. Also, Kanika Riley, is a board member and is with us tonight. And those like, I don't know if we have any board members attending by Zoom. So those are key leadership staff. We had a meeting earlier today, and some of the other members so without having a forum, we'll close to the program. Welcome everyone and enjoy the program and enjoy some of the things that we brought.
Thank you, Barbara. So we'll start with the staff programming presentations. But first, why we do this at this time of year. So in 1941, President Roosevelt designated December 15th as Bill of Rights Day. That commemorates the signing, the adoption of the Bill of Rights to the federal constitution. This will be the tomorrow will be the 231st anniversary of the adoption of the Bill of Rights. So it served us reasonably well during that time. One of the things that is exciting about working with the ACLU of Hawaiʻi is that the rights that we advocate for are not just the rights that are enshrined in the Bill of Rights, but also affirmative rights in the federal and the state constitution. That's become a critically important to these days. In recognition of this day, we celebrate the Bill of Rights, and we like to tell our stakeholders, our members, our members of the communities that we serve, and particularly the impacted communities that we serve. And we'd like to share with you the work that the staff do on your behalf. So there will be a period for questions and answers after staff presentations, but I hope that you all enjoy the presentations by our staff. So we have some people on the staff who are working behind the scenes and a few who could not be with us this evening, but I'd like to introduce each of them in turn. And if you could either wave or stand as you're able. So as a recognition. So our digital organizer from our field department, Kylie Akione, is not able to be with us this evening. It's for finals week. We also have with us staff attorney Taylor Brack. Taylor. And field organizer Ansley Alondra, who could not be with us this evening. We have George Cordero, who serves as our legal and legislative assistant. Legal Director Wookie Kim, who we'll hear from in the presentation. I reported him, he's not able to be with us this evening. We have our field organizing intern, Lauren Tyrone, with us this evening. Operations and Finance Director, she who gets things done. Tracy Tokuwaka is here at the front of the room, making certain that everything works flawlessly. I'm the Executive Director, Scott Greenwood. We have the Policy Director, Carrie Ann Shirota, as well. The Field Organizing Strategic Consultant, Shana Luna Alexander, who did not be with us this evening. Producing this event and directing it is our Communications Director, Kim Moa, here up front. Staffing our control center. And then I'm privileged to introduce next our Deputy Executive Director, Ryan Leong. So Ryan is going to describe for you and explain some of our integrated advocacy and our three principal campaigns that we have focused on in 2022 and leading forward into 2023. And then we'll hear from additional members of the staff in the presentation. So with that, I'll turn this over briefly to Ryan.
Back here so we can see the presentations.
Sure. Hello, Mike Kako, News Ryan Leong, Deputy Executive Director of the ACLU of Hawaiʻi. So when we talk about our work, we utilize every tactic available to the ACLU. Campaigns are examples of pure integrated advocacy that use litigation, lobbying, policy analysis, communications, grassroots, grass tops organizing, development, and operational support, and non-political editorial activities to achieve our objectives. We set a limited number of concrete, achievable, winnable, measurable program objectives for each campaign. Our objectives are specific and focused on the change of time as the environment shifts or successes are achieved. So our three campaign priorities: decriminalizing poverty. We're going to end the use of sweeps to remove houseless people from public property when there is no available shelter. Eliminating cash bail in favor of alternatives that do not keep people locked up for lack of resources. And decriminalize low-level and quality of life offenses. Reimagining policing. Educate the public about how policing currently works in Hawaiʻi and why it needs to change. Identify areas in county budgets where police funding could be redirected to non-law enforcement solutions and implement those changes in identifying plans. Increase police accountability and curb police abuse of power by filing a lawsuit to challenge the current police practices. build a coalition of individuals, organizations, and directly impacted people who can share their own stories and advocate for reform. And also create a state cause of action against police or constitutional violations. Our last campaign is Smart Justice. We want to achieve categorical use of the governor's clemency power in order to release people who convicted under current laws to serve a lesser sentence than what they are currently serving. People convicted of drug distribution and possession offenses, regardless of underlying substance. People incarcerated for technical probation or parole violations and good food. And also for everyone released from prison and jail, including people guaranteeing clemency, get government officials at every stage of the process to create pathways that expand across to real meaningful success, reentry, and support.
Thank you, Ryan. So next you will hear from Legal Director Wookie Kim, reporting, and then from Taylor Brack. These are the members, two of our members of our legal staff, and they'll be informing you as to what that department has been working on and what its achievements have been this year. So Wookie, take it away.
Hi, everyone. My name is Wookie Kim. I use he, him pronouns. I'm the legal director at ACLU of Hawaiʻi. Unfortunately, I was unable to join in person tonight, so you get to listen to a recording of me instead. I'm going to provide an update on 3 of our ongoing matters and then share some of the other goings on of the legal program. Then Taylor Brack, our relatively new staff attorney, will share updates about 2 other ongoing matters. So let me start with the Chelius versus Becerra abortion access lawsuit. In 2017, with the help of attorneys from National's Reproductive Freedom Project, we filed a lawsuit against the FDA on behalf of a Hawaii-based OBGYN and several professional healthcare associations. And we sought to challenge the FDA's special restrictions, what are called REMS, or Risk Evaluation Mitigation Strategy, on mifepristone, which is a safe and effective medication used for early abortion and miscarriage care, also known as the abortion pill. The centerpiece of the REMS is a requirement that patients be handed the medication at a health center from a healthcare provider who has pre-registered with the drug manufacturer and arranged to order and stock the pill in their facility. But this requirement makes no sense, especially since patients are allowed to take the pill unsupervised at the time and location of their choice. And crucially, this REMS deters healthcare providers who often can't meet all these onerous requirements from offering medication abortion, which in turn reduces access to needed care. This reduced access especially harms patients in underserved and rural areas who are also often low-income women of color, and who are the very patients that one of our plaintiffs, Dr. Graham Chelius, serves. So after diligently litigating for the past few years, we had a significant recent victory. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the FDA, under pressure from a separate parallel ACLU lawsuit filed in the District of Maryland, decided to temporarily lift this most onerous restriction, the in-person dispensing requirement. So as a result, so long as the pandemic was active, patients could receive mifepristone by telemedicine appointment and mail, just as they already received many other important medications. That was a temporary but a significant win. But then in December 2021, just a few days after our last annual meeting, the FDA, in response to our Hawaiʻi lawsuit, announced that it was repealing the in-person dispensing requirement permanently. So this was a huge victory for reproductive freedom, and one that will increase access to this important medication nationwide. Of course, there are still many fights to be had on this front. The Supreme Court's recent decision in Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health Organization evaporated the fundamental right to an abortion. And more recently, within this past month, the Alliance Defending Freedom filed a new lawsuit challenging the FDA's approval of mifepristone as a drug, claiming that these dangerous chemical drugs harm women and girls. That's a direct quote from the lawsuit. Despite these new obstacles, we'll continue the fight to protect access to abortion and other reproductive health services, both in Hawaii and nationwide. So the second matter I'm going to talk about is our lawsuit challenging Maui County's sweep of a large houseless encampment near Kanaha Beach Park on Maui. In September 2021, at the direction of Mayor Victorino, Maui County conducted a sweep of a community of about 60 to 80 houseless people who had been residing in the Kanaha area. The county brought heavy machinery and equipment to evict all residents and destroy any and all property that was left behind. All told, this was about 54 vehicles and nearly 60 tons of belongings. Sweeps are always harmful, disruptive, and unconstitutional, but what was particularly egregious about this one was that the county had completely ignored the houseless residents' formal request to have a contested case hearing before their property could be permanently seized by the government. Specifically, dozens of houseless people had, with the help of community organizers, including Lisa Darcy of Sheriamana, they filed written requests for a contested case hearing with the mayor's office well before the sweep began. But the county decided to ignore those requests and carry on with the sweep anyways. So in October 2021, we filed an administrative agency appeal in the Second Circuit Court on behalf of 4 houseless clients. A mother who became houseless for the first time during the pandemic because she had to care for her adult son who has multiple disabilities. A couple who worked together to make about $500 per month cleaning vacation rental units, and a grandmother who's been houseless for about 12 years. So we challenged the county's decision to conduct a sweep on numerous grounds, including that it violated our clients' due process rights and their Fourth Amendment right to be free from unreasonable searches and seizures. So early on, the county tried to get the case dismissed on jurisdictional grounds. In their view, our clients did not actually possess any property that was protected by the Constitution, because the county believed that property that is in a public space, quote unquote, in violation of the law, was not entitled to constitutional protection. This meant, in other words, that the county believed it was free to do whatever it wanted with that property, without providing notice or the opportunity to be heard, the 2 fundamental components of due process. Of course, we vehemently disagreed with the county's dangerous position. We saw this as the county's attempt to carve out an exception in the Constitution for houseless people. So we stressed to the court that the county was not free to disregard due process simply because someone was not permanently housed in a structure with 4 walls and roof. Thankfully, the Second Circuit agreed with us. Unfortunately, the county decided to appeal that adverse ruling up to the Intermediate Court of Appeals. But instead of letting the case get further delayed, we decided to affirmatively request that the Hawaii Supreme Court itself directly hear the case. And we argued that the case presented questions of fundamental public importance. On November 17th, the High Court agreed with us and granted our transfer request. So early next year, the Hawaii Supreme Court will be deciding whether houseless people have the same due process rights as housed people. So here are a couple photos from the year. These are our clients on the outside. This is Sonia, Jessica, Laura Lee, and Adam. And this was after one of our court victories. And various members of the community also came out in support. So the last matter I'm going to talk about is our Hall versus City and County of Honolulu police misconduct lawsuit. This case is about a June 10th, 2019 incident in which our client, a working mother of 4, was falsely arrested, silenced, and prevented from filing a police report by several HPD police officers. That day, our client's boss was in a dispute, our client was in a dispute with her boss, during which he slammed her front door into her body and attempted to force his way inside her home. Desperate, our client called 911. hoping that the police would protect her from her assailant. But after they arrived, instead of protecting her, the police officers proceeded to violate her constitutional rights in multiple ways. They refused her request to file a police report against her boss, despite her First Amendment right to do so. They then wrote up a false and misleading report against her, claiming that she had stolen one of her boss's phones and arrested her in the process. Finally, the lead officer warned her that if she persisted in trying to report her boss's crimes, he would take her to the police station. Classic First Amendment retaliation. So by contrast, even though our client had made the 911 call to report her boss, the officers did not arrest or even investigate her assailant. So what explained the police officers' fundamentally different treatment between our client and her assailant? Well, our client's boss was a close friend and business partner with the lead police officer responding to the scene, an unmistakably clear conflict of interest. So in June 2021, we filed a lawsuit in federal court challenging this unlawful conduct by the 3 police officers involved, as well as the city, based on its facially deficient conflict of interest policy. And over the past year and a half, we've been going through pretrial motions practice, mainly focused on the issue of qualified immunity. Now, for those of you who don't know, qualified immunity is a judge-made doctrine that shields government officials from lawsuits, even when they break the law, so long as their conduct did not violate, quote, clearly established law based on factually similar prior cases. So while the concept makes some sense in theory, in practice, it prevents civil rights plaintiffs from holding government actors accountable for misconduct because they're held to the burden of pointing to specific cases with near identical facts to show that the right at issue was clearly established. So we're fighting that battle now. One of the officers asserted that qualified immunity applied to our claim that she was violating equal protection by discriminating in the provision of police services. The district court judge correctly denied qualified immunity, but the officer decided to pursue an immediate appeal in the 9th Circuit Court of Appeals. So we're now briefing the qualified immunity issue in the appeals court, and just last week, the 9th Circuit set the case for oral argument in mid-February. So we'll continue to fight to hold police officers accountable, both inside and outside the courts. So Taylor is going to provide updates in a couple other matters, but I wanted to close by mentioning and showing you a few other things the legal program has done this past year. We filed amicus briefs, including one supporting efforts to increase transparency over police disciplinary records. We gave multiple public speeches and presentations, including at the International Women's Day visual in front of the Honolulu Police Department and for the Hawaii State Bar Association Leadership Institute. We made dozens of press and media appearances, including on Hawaii Public Radio's The Conversation to discuss the 50th anniversary of Title IX. We tabled at the University of Hawaii Richardson School of Law Public Interest Fair. We hosted 2 fabulous summer legal interns here, and we went on several legal team outings all over the island. So here, this is on the west side, this is Tantalus, and we've done other hikes things as well. So anyways, with your continued support, we'll keep doing what we can to protect and expand civil rights for the people of Hawaii. Thank you. And with that, I'll pass the virtual mic to Taylor.
Good evening, my name is Taylor Brack. I use she, her pronouns. I am the staff attorney here at the ACLU of Hawaiʻi. I started this position in September of this year, and it's been a pleasure and an honor to serve on the legal department alongside Wookie and George. I would like to take this time to share some information about 2 of our cases. So our first case is what I will call our Taylor case. This involves an incident that took place on January 10, 2020, and it occurred at Hawaii Elementary School, and it involved a 10-year-old Black female student. You might have heard or read about this particular case in the news as it garnered a lot of attention. The student is referred to as NB in our lawsuit to protect her identity. She is a disabled child who was given a Section 504 plan by the Hawaii Department of Education to accommodate her ADHD diagnosis. Like many children, NB loves to draw, and for her, drawing is therapeutic. As a way to cope with the bullying that she endured at school, she would draw pictures of her classmates to express her frustrations and to process difficult emotions. NB and her friends together drew one such picture and a parent took issue with the depiction of her child in the drawing. The concerned parent arrived at school during the next school day and demanded that the school have NB and only NB arrested for the offense of drawing. School admin reluctantly complied with the parents' demands, and what followed was a series of very serious violations against NB's constitutional rights. When HPD officers arrived, they proceeded to pull NB from class, isolate her, interrogate her, and eventually handcuff her and drive her to the police station. NB's mother, Tamara Taylor, was not informed by the school about this urgent conflict until after the decision was made to call the police. And when she rushed to the school to advocate on her daughter's behalf, school admin and HPD officers intentionally kept her in an office separated from her daughter. Ms. Taylor's pleas to talk to her daughter were ignored. At some point, Ms. Taylor was released from the office and informed that her child was being arrested. She watched in anguished helplessness as her child was driven off school property in the back of a police vehicle. There were many options that the school could have exercised to resolve this conflict, and their over-reliance on the police in situations like this is extremely concerning. What this case shows is that police presence in schools do not make them safer. In fact, they actively endanger the most vulnerable: children who are disabled, children who are divergent, children from stigmatized racial backgrounds. Both HPD and DOE declined to adopt the necessary policy changes outlined in the ACLU's demand letter. And at the beginning of 2022, we joined with former ACLU of Hawaiʻi legal director Mateo Caballero as co-counsel in this lawsuit to compel change so that other families don't have to go through what Ms. Taylor and her daughter went through. Schools must do better to protect all the children in their care, and police must institute training and policies that allow them to more appropriately and effectively engage with minors in schools who have disabilities. Our next case involves a Title IX dispute. And in this lawsuit, we have joined a co-counsel team with really stellar civil rights litigators. One from Legal Aid at Work, which is a nonprofit located in San Francisco. And we're also working alongside a private firm called Simpson, Thatcher and Bartlett, located in New York. At the center of this class action lawsuit are 4 former female athletes at Campbell High School who have suffered from sex-based discrimination throughout their time at school. Even more concerning was the school's retaliatory response whenever student athletes and their parents would advocate for fair treatment. Seeking to change the culture of discrimination that existed at Campbell, our clients learned that the problematic pattern enacted by the school was pervasive and widespread, and that the school was seriously invested in avoiding compliance with the laws prohibiting sex discrimination in sports. With the steadfast support of their parents, these athletes made the courageous decision to file this lawsuit in the hopes that the school would finally comply with Title IX and future female athletes would not have the same demoralizing and degrading experiences that they had. In this past year, we have had a couple of very promising developments in this case. In April, the 9th Circuit Court of Appeals reversed the denial of class certification, which allowed us to revive the lawsuit and to proceed with discovery. In October, counsel and our expert witness, Nana Lupiano, completed a site visit of the school's athletic facilities both on and off campus. Also in October, the New York Times came to Hawaii and conducted an in-depth interview with the Badis and Papier families. The published article helped to tell the girl's story in their own words and provided valuable context to the continuing fight for Title IX compliance. those are some of the exciting cases we're working on. Also, again, I am very blessed to be able to dig into these issues and to use the law as a force for good in our community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Taylor. So next, we will hear from our policy director, Carrie Ann Shirota. Pleased to welcome our colleague to the podium. Very good.
Aloha kako. My name is Carrie Ann Shirota, and I'm the policy director since December of last year. Our small yet mighty policy team, consisting of myself and George Cordero, offer a roadmap of our policy work and accomplishments during the past year. We'd also like to acknowledge Bo Kirkman, a recent legal and legislative fellow, who has since transitioned to federal clerkship. He made critical contributions to our legislative work. We have a policy work legislative wrap up from this past session, what's on the horizon, and we'll highlight efforts to build and strengthen community relationships. But before we dive into those legislative highlights, we'd like to take a moment, step back, and zoom out. Why do we engage in public policy advocacy in the first place? Our theory of change recognizes the critical importance of enacting laws, public policy that protects and advances our civil rights and civil liberties. In order to change laws and policies, we need to work with lawmakers and staff, but we can't do it alone. We must continue to build and sustain a movement to shift power in relationship with our community. Many of us in this room probably never contemplated that we would live to see the reversal of Roe versus Wade in our lifetime. Yet here we are. Instead of accepting the Supreme Court's decision and waiting for further infringements on our reproductive rights and the right to marry who we love, the ACLU, both nationally and locally, will fight to protect and advance our civil rights and civil liberties in the legislative arena. To paraphrase the words of Sister Angela Davis, a renowned civil rights activist, she says, "I will not accept the things I cannot change. I will change the things I cannot accept." In this case, the ACLU of Hawaiʻi, we will work together and change the things that we cannot accept. Looking back to the 2022 legislative session, it could be summed up with the title of a movie, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Politically, we faced the following backdrop: the good. We were building upon momentum of past more justice bills that had been enacted. We were able to rely on some allies within the state legislature, cultivating those relationships. We saw new coalitions and more community allies joining us in our fight for justice in all of these counties. And the bad and the ugly. All legislative seats were up for re-election. We witnessed more public cases of political corruption, and we saw a lot of media focusing on tough on crime, which we knew to be failed policies. Amidst that backdrop, we introduced these bold, transformative, changing bills. And we're going to talk about the change. Bill reform that cuts across all of our campaigns. As you may have heard, HB 1567 passed. It made it to the legislative finish line, and yet the governor vetoed the bill. There was an unprecedented firestorm of publicity, which was a really small incremental change from our broken bail system, where nearly 50 to 60% of all people in our overcrowded jails are detained simply because they cannot afford bail. We also introduced measures relating to probation and parole reform in Hawaiʻi. Those measures had hearings, and fortunately it did not pass. We will continue this work. Actually, a dubious distinction in Hawaiʻi, we have the longest lengths of probation on average compared to any other jurisdiction in the United States. Clearly, there's more work for us to do. We introduced the clean slate bill that would automatically expunge records after a period of time for people who have convictions. The bill unfortunately did not get a hearing, and we were told that it wasn't right for this legislative session, again, where everyone was up for re-election. And last, we introduced a bill that would call for a moratorium to stop all planning and funding to build new jails and prisons, because our philosophy and our belief is that there are proven measures to decarcerate without building new jails and prisons. So what happened with that moratorium? We decided to pivot and pursue a budget strategy because the bill did not move. The moratorium bill died, we pivoted and we decided to follow the money. We reviewed the executive budget and discovered that the Department of Public Safety was requesting another 15 million on top of millions to continue planning a new jail to replace OCCC. We reached out to leadership, provided extensive data, particularly to Representative Chair Sylvia Lu, now our Lieutenant Governor, about reducing the jail population through data-driven solutions, particularly focusing on pretrial reforms. Was this new strategy effective? Yes. Despite surplus funding, the Department of Public Safety got zero funding to continue the next phase of planning to replace OCCC. And we're going to continue to focus on our Smart Justice campaign, which is one to reduce our carceral population by 50%, as well as reducing racial disparities. And we are letting our lawmakers know that if California, New Jersey, New York, and other jurisdictions can incarcerate their jail and prison population between 8,000 to nearly 40,000 people within a span of 6 to 11 years, then we can surely shrink our system by investing in smart justice strategies at every entry point to the system. We want to highlight some legislative victories. During the course of the legislative session, we submitted testimony verbally or in writing on over 40 bills, which related to our campaign. I'd like to highlight there were legislative victories relating to reentry, reintegration, which are bills that enhance opportunities for people to succeed when they leave our jails and prisons. After many years, over a decade, we finally passed a bill that would prohibit discrimination on the basis of source of income in public housing. Another bill passed that would place constraints, limitations upon room confinement for youth, which is essentially meaning restrictions so that we don't have solitary confinement for youth. They're very important, sure. And lastly, we also supported and submitted testimony in support of Department of Homelands. We believe that is integral to fully fund and to fulfill that mandate from the federal government, which is codified in our state constitution. And we need to recognize where we are in Hawaii and that these systems, particularly disparately impact the Hawaiians and indigenous people. We supported other measures. There was an LGBTQ commission that finally became codified into law, and we worked to defeat other bad bills. And with that, George is going to come up and talk about what's on the legislative horizon.
Good evening, all. Thank you so much, Carrie Ann, for providing highlights for this past 2022. My name is George Cordero. I'm the legal and legislative assistant for the ACLU of Hawaiʻi. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Thank you for the folks who are here in person, and thank you for the folks who are in the old interwebs. For my segment, like Carrie Ann mentioned, I will provide a preview of what's to happen for 2023 legislative session. We have three issues. First is policing data collection. Second is pretrial fairness. And the third is clean slate. There's been an increased number of states calling for more transparency from its police forces. Several of them have enacted legislation requiring policing data collection. Hawaii is no different. Current policing data collections in Hawaii is extremely limited, and for the data that is available, it lacks uniformity and varies from county to county. We hope to introduce a measure that would require police departments in all counties to submit annual reports to the legislature and post the results on each department's website, highlighting data specific to traffic stops, arrests, use of force, misconduct, and demographic data. We feel that data collection is a measured step in investing in non-police crisis responses that make communities safer and healthier. Next is pretrial fairness. We believe that liberty is the norm And detaining someone who has not been convicted of a crime because they're too poor to afford cash bail violates constitutional protections. Locking someone up over the weekend while waiting for a hearing can have serious implications and destroys the lives and livelihood of thousands of families in Hawaii. Our goal is to shift the burden to the prosecutors and state to provide clear and convincing evidence as a standard prior to detention. We want to ensure that detention is imposed fairly and that a person's wallet should never determine whether they sit behind bars or walk away. Currently, in Hawaii counties where data is available, approximately 50% of people in county jails have not been convicted of a crime. For Clean Slate, we believe that people should be able to live with a clean slate as soon as they have earned the chance to re-enter society and not after years of waiting. With Clean Slate, the goal is to automate expungement through data and technology. It would require the state to create a system that automates record clearance and requires automatic clearance upon eligibility of the record. We believe in giving people a fair shot to care for themselves, their ohana, and community, especially after they have already paid their debt to society. Next slide, please. Furthermore, I just want to note some of the other issues that the ACLU will be supporting this upcoming session. These are abortion access, cannabis decriminalization, driving without a license, and the elimination of fines and fees for our keiki in the juvenile system. We plan on taking more of a supportive role within the hui's and partnerships that we partake in. And speaking of partnerships and relationships, I would like to pass it back to Karen Ann to highlight some of the relationship building that we did this past year and talk about the importance of coalition. Thank you.
Cultivating and building these relationships. You can see here a visual of the number of organizations that we've partnered with. There's a long list. We continue to work collaboratively with these partners, and I would like to highlight some of them here. We reached out, partnered with ACLU National, our affiliates, state agencies, from the public defenders to Office of Foreign Affairs, State Action, Community for Equity, played an integral role in transformative justice. We also partnered with academia. This past session, one of the professors at the University of Hawaii at Manoa, who teaches a social movements class, partnered with us for the first time. Students in this class took on the issue of pretrial fairness, bail reform. They researched the issue. They submitted testimony. Some of them testified for the first time ever. These are our budding advocates, the next generation, to take on and carry the work that we do. We've also been working with UC Berkeley Policy Advocacy Committee. Our reentry partners include Ikuru Menui, Menapa'a, Going Home Hawaii, and Maui Reentry Hui. You can just hear by these names, these are partnerships that we've cultivated through various islands. It's not just based on Oahu, but the neighbor islands as well. Civil Beat Law Center, Common Cause, Native Hawaiian Legal Corporation. We also made a concerted effort to work more collaboratively with public health organizations. Waikiki Health Center, the Uhunua Prison Project, Papa Wololokahi, Hawaii Health and Harm Reduction Center, and the Pagapalai in the audience here tonight. Clean State Initiative, the national level, Code for America, and the Cannabis Task Force Working Group, Last Prisoner Project, and the Marathon Project. And there's so much more. George mentioned the power of coalition. These are a number of bills that we've worked on in the past or we're preparing to move forward. The fight for civil rights cannot be won by one group alone, but it needs to be waged in coalition. This year we work in conjunction with the following coalitions. Bail Coalition, which have over 30 signatories, many organizations that have never worked on bail reform previously. The Mighty Movement, Hawaii Abortion Collective, Hawaii Women's Coalition. And together we are more than the sum of our parts. We not only convene and direct the power of our coalition members, we amplify amplify our voices, and magnify our collective power, people power. Here's a flyer of an event that we did collaboratively in partnership with the Maui County Bar Association, other organizations. Coordinating the first ever Road to Redemption event on the island of Maui. Our executive director, Scott, Taylor, and Tracy attended this event and provided hands-on support. This builds upon our legislative victory of Act 59 to lift administrative stoppers on driver's license because people are unable to afford question fines and fees. Volunteers assisted nearly 30 persons, and collectively the citations and their traffic obstructions were in excess of 125, with several individuals having 20 or more infractions. Impacted participants expressed gratitude for the navigation support to make progress on lifting their license stoppers and paving the way to drive legally. In turn, this will increase opportunities to access healthy food, better employment, and to care for themselves and their children. One of the mothers who came to this event, she literally had to leave. She came to seek support so that she can drive legally and take care of her children. This event was the first time an event, and the idea is to replicate this on every island to give meaning to Act 59. It is a victory to pass a bill, but what we really need to do is give meaning to it, and people are exercising their rights. We'd also like to highlight that we policy team consulted with Dr. Radine Kiaki-Olalo, who has finished her doctorate in political science. Her focus was on criminalization and incarceration of Native Hawaiians in both historically and contemporary times. She was hired to engage with members of the Native Hawaiian community to learn their perspectives about the ACLU of Hawaiʻi's legislative efforts and priorities, and explore opportunities for future engagement together. I'd also like to highlight that we worked with Liam Chin, who is here in our audience this evening. He's been a consultant for accountable policing and public safety initiatives in partnership with government, police, and community members. He's also a restorative justice practitioner, and recently worked with Oakland to adopt alternate responses to policing for the Reimagining Public Safety Coalition. And on our behalf, Liam helped to convene a multi-stakeholder coalition retreat in creating a roadmap for systems change strategies that increase collaboration and impact in justice sector reform, reinvestment, and community safety. And the ACLU is committed to serve as the backbone for this emerging Reimagining Public Safety Coalition. You can see the book process. And finally, policy comes down to education, education, education. Not only ourselves, because evidence-based practices evolve, but lawmakers, our allies, and our larger community. We provide data and evidence-based research to counter myths relating to our campaigns and influence public policy. However, data is not enough. Throughout our affiliate, we must elevate real-life stories of people most impacted by these harmful systems and continue to focus on solutions. Here is a quick example of a PSA created in collaboration with 11 Media as part of our redemption campaign. And I just want to say mahalo to all of you for your time and commitment to advance just public policies together. Today in Hawaii, nearly 20,000 people are under legal supervision, and over 4,000 people are in jails and prisons. Our reliance on mass incarceration has caused severe overcrowding, creating unsafe and unhealthy conditions for incarcerated people and staff too. It costs $240 a day and nearly $80,000 a year to incarcerate one adult. In return, we have recidivism rates of over 50%, which means the vicious cycle of incarceration continues. The current system is not working, but it doesn't have to be this way. We must urge our next governor to embrace clemency powers, to issue pardons and commutations, to address long-standing injustices in our criminal legal system. We need lawmakers to pass clean state laws to reduce barriers to housing, jobs, education, and other life opportunities. People with prior records who have served their time deserve a second chance. Together, we can build healthy, safe, thriving, and just communities. Mahalo. Aloha.
Oops.
So thank you, Carrie Ann and George, for your presentation. I think this was absolutely terrific, and we really appreciate it. So next on our agenda is part of our presentation, it's the field organizing department. We have our intern, Lauren Tyron, here to share what field has been doing and their role in our integrated advocacy. Lauren?
Thank you, Scott. Aloha, everyone. My name is Lauren Tyron. I'm the field organizing intern since January of this year. So I'm going to start off by talking about field purpose. So community organizers and activists across the world know that nothing that's won in courtrooms with legislators or legislatures stays won without field organizing, which is all about building people power. And so to do this, the field team identifies, coaches, and supports volunteer leaders who are willing to work to mobilize contacts within their own networks in order to expand the size, reach, and power of the movement. We center the experiences and leadership of directly impacted people who guide the work, while ensuring that non-impacted allies engage in effective and substantive action as well. In short, field organizing at the ACLU of Hawaiʻi is designed to build the long-term political power of the ACLU and the civil liberties movement more broadly, so that our rights and liberties are better protected and ensured. Some highlights from our work in 2022 include helping secure critical legislative wins, hosting the Hawaiʻi by Reentry Summit, and participating in ACLU National's Redemption Campaign. And so to build support for our policy priorities, the field team worked around the clock during doing outreach to supporters, impacted groups, activists across all islands, students, professors, partners, and other community members who were inspired to get involved, and make their voices heard at the Capitol. We provided public education on their issues through countless trainings, presentations, action alerts, and one-on-ones with community members, which equip them with the knowledge, tools, expertise, and confidence needed to demand change. Here, we have some metrics for the calls, texts, and action points that we've done over the legislative session that show that it's only through a swell of grassroots support that we are able to achieve wins. And as mentioned earlier, in speaking of wins, this past year we blocked the release of $15 million for the new jail and helped secure funding for community-based organizations providing diversion, rehabilitation, and re-entry support services. And so we wouldn't have been able to do our Hawaiʻi Reentry Summit without our partners, as mentioned earlier by Carrie Ann, Nui, Menapa'a, Going Home Hawaii, and Papa Ola Lokahi. With our 85 attendees that came from across Hawaii to join us in Honolulu for a powerful two-day summit, we're under one roof. We brought together impacted folks, advocates, public policy experts, service providers, legislators, and other key stakeholders and decision makers. Across the 2 days, we built and strengthened relationships with one another, learned about a cultural and public health framework for criminal legal reform, and advocated for re-entry programs and services that will support our beloved community members who are exiting incarceration and returning home to their families. Between sessions, participants met lawmakers at the Capitol, where they shared personal stories of heartbreak and redemption and championed bills that call for systemic change. Together, we honored these advocacy skills and storytelling training that was led by our keynote speaker, Louis Conway Jr., a beloved colleague who was since tragically passed away. He was a leader in pushing for clemency and was integral to the launching of the Redemption Campaign. And so the Redemption Campaign was a nationwide effort to liberate 50,000 people from prisons by pushing elected officials to use their clemency powers in new and transformational ways, forcefully confronting mass incarceration and racial injustice by granting categorical commutations to release 4 large groups of people who are unjustifiably in prison. Through this campaign, we were able to host a gubernatorial forum, conduct candidate surveys, and use the tactic of bird dog, which is to follow, watch carefully, or investigate. Bird dogging involves attending political candidates' public appearances and directly asking them about their stance on an issue and board to support their cause. Bird dogging is all about getting our elected officials to stop hiding on the issues and force them to either take a stance or make it clear they deflect the questions from constituents. And so if you would like to get involved, please visit our website or email.
Thank you, Lauren. So I hope you can all see just why I am so proud of the work that this team does. I have always said, even prior to my involvement here, that the ACLU of Hawaiʻi has always punched above its weight. The impact that this place has, that this affiliate has on advancing civil rights and civil liberties in Hawaii and for the peoples of Hawaii is enormous. But that does not come easily, and it isn't free. We are fortunate to have supporters who make this work possible, and we'd like to count you among them. Freedom isn't free, and the work that this affiliate does, and that the staff that you heard from, the work that they do, really requires commitment and resourcing, and that really makes it all possible. So if we would put it back on the screen with the website. The websites are acluhi.org or acluhawaii.org. Or you can see Ryan or me afterwards if you'd like to talk to one of us about resourcing and helping us take our program to the next level. To the people who are here virtually with us tonight, thank you for joining us. If there are questions for any of our presenters this evening, I'm happy to field those now. They're from people in the audience in the room or people on Zoom. Are there any questions? Anybody in the chat or Zoom yet? Okay. So we've got some light refreshments at the back. This will conclude the presentation section of our meeting. Please feel free to hang out for a little bit, have something to eat, some coffee, some pastry, some cake, chat with members of the staff, and thank you for coming this evening. Thank you as always for your support.